Welcome to the Torah and Science weekly update podcast. It's going to be based on the Torah and YEC Moshe Emma series. A couple of the books right here. Here's volume 3, Torah Discovery Chronology. I have a picture of the Behistun inscription, which is the Persian period, and we'll get to how that ties into Torah chronology, Megillah Esther, where Mordechai, Daniel, Esther fit into Persia. History and Torah. Is volume 2. We'll be covering Perlman YEC spiral. Cosmology model, cosmological redshift hypothesis and model. We find that distant starlight not only aligns with Torah testimony 5,784 on a Monday to date starting year 1 on day 6, age of the universe, but falsifies the competing cosmological model, hypothesis, and assumptions underlying it, 3 of them. The standard cosmological model, lambda, and then LCDM, lambda comma dark matter, which is at 13.8 billion rounded. But we have a 5.67 quintillion to 1 parsimony advantage over that, and many more pure scientific advantages. Spiral stands for stars preceding inflation. The cosmological redshift tests the light thereof. By stars, we mean hyperdense protogalactic formation preceded the hypercosmic inflation expansion epoch. That was early in history. By the end of day 4, we find the universe attained mature size and density, and gravitational bound equilibrium. Okay, so we just had Pesach Sheni 3 days ago, the 14th of 4 days ago now, ER. A makeup date for Passover a month ago. So in Abraham to the Exodus, we find the sojourn when Jacob went down for 210 years with Jacob and family. 70 went down, probably a few other wives, who not from his loins, not, and about 2.4 million left. 210 years later, Joseph was elevated to viceroy 9 years prior. 7 years of plenty. He elevated at the beginning. That's when the Great Pyramid span began, as Joseph commissioned, designed the first Great Pyramid, the step pyramid of Djoser, third dynasty Djoser at Saqqara, and actually had to do with the grain distribution. So Maki, and 9 years later, Jacob comes down, and the servitude sets in after Levi passes on 116 years before the Exodus, but in reality, it may not have set in right away. We estimate that based on non-conclusive arguments that it was 108 years. So about 8 years after Levi passed on, the servitude set in. By the time of Miriam's birth and naming, it had become much more bitter slavery had forced work had set in, even though the Levites were probably exempt from the work, but they were still busy. And one of our newest excerpts is on the Diary of Merer. We identify as Merari, the son of Levi. And he was not the only Levite who had an important position as an official officer in ancient Egypt. We find him in the 4th dynasty, which is about exactly where we predict. Okay, so check that out. Paramenon, YEC. It's a ResearchGate, academia, and Amazon. Okay, so we were there. In the Great Pyramid era, from the beginning when Joseph's elevated to viceroy. Imhotep is an AKA, one of the of Joseph. So from that 9 plus 210 years, 219 years, that's pretty much the Great Pyramid era of Old Kingdom Egypt. And we stopped working several months after the return of Moses in 2447 on a Monday, 1448. It's the Exodus year in the 7th month from Tishrei. So, and that was within a few years of the passing of Pepe too. He had great longevity. Some say 94 years. I think it's the Turin Canon. We reference it. Several articles on that. The Egyptology. So one of the keys to understanding Egyptology, we find and explain, is consensus Egyptology from the founding of Egypt is inflated by 1,400 years. So that is plenty of unaccounted for overlap, repetitions, and other fudge. So you never get it to add up and cross check whether if you work from the back forward or from today going backwards. It just won't add up if you go by try to reconcile Torah testimony, which is fully reliable, with modern Egyptology, the current consensus. So Mitzrayim and Sons, he wasn't a baby when he founded Egypt. About 10 years after the dispersion from Babel, his grandfather Noah, genetic bottleneck Adam, passes on in 2006 at the age of 950. 350 years after the Mabul global flood impacts Seir, where he, 3 sons and 3 daughters, enter the ark. 8 enter, 9 come off. We find Canaan at least conceived the pride born on the ark. Even though he's listed last, it's not in order of birth. Just like with Abraham and with Shem in particular, we know by the math, he was not born first, but he was listed first. So too, Canaan, who was cursed by Noah for what he had tried to do, or did do to Noah, listed last of the brothers of Ham. And he was ostracized, so he ended up living in the land of Shem rather than in the land of his father, Ham. Okay, Mitzrayim is from Ham. Okay, so we, by correcting the chronology, we're able to put events not just in their relative order, but the historic actuality. And okay, so Canaan, so Mitzrayim and sons found Egypt he waits till after the passing of Noah, so which was nice of him, wait, no, don't leave Noah there alone, so he's probably not too far from Noah, able to visit before he goes down and founds Mitzrayim, Egypt. Abraham comes down at age 76 during the famine. 48 years before the start of the dispersion from Babel. He was born 58 years before the passing of Noah. We have a tradition. He studied 20 years under and with Noah, Torah. So when Abraham goes down at age 76, it's in 2024. So Egypt had not even been founded 20 years earlier. Abraham brings down a lot of knowledge. He was a great astronomer and engineer. So he brought down a lot of know-how. Obviously, Joseph did too. Isaac studied in the Academy of Shem and Aver. Jacob studied there. And Joseph learned from Jacob, from Israel, his father. Okay, so anyway, the 2024 Abraham was there. About 200 years later, Joseph becomes viceroy. Joseph also knew quite a bit. Helped his dad cut the rock, Matztaba Matseva, for his mother Rachel, and Joseph was pretty young, but he learned some things. And to his age 17, he was pretty much a Ben Zekunim, studying Torah with his father. So he also, obviously brought down a lot of good science, and a lot of it probably inspired, just like he was able to understand the dream. So he understood how to do things. So these grain silos were able to preserve the grain for up to, could have been up for up to 7 years, they were designed to. But good chance that when Jacob came down, the whole purpose of the famine was to get Jacob down there. Hashem had already foretold to Abraham what would be in a strange land, didn't name the land. Hashem did. With Jacob, he had to go down to visit Joseph, however you want to, unless commanded. So it was, Jacob, Isaac, Abraham knew, Isaac knew, Jacob went down, and he didn't plan on going down for long, but he ended up helping us get the Torah 974 generations earlier than we would have had in Mirrors of Eternity, Torah Lishma Institute. Rabbi Nachman Cohen, one of the president of the Association of Orthodox Jewish Scientists, that just like with chemistry and stellar formation, rock formation, heat, time, and pressure, 3 variables, so too is stress a variable. And the greater the stress, the greater that we're able to overcome the adversity, stay true to Hashem, the greater the merit, and the shorter the time, or both. So we're able to, in just 26 generations from Adam till Moshe, when we had the Exodus, we merited to get the entire Torah, which would, under normal stress levels, have been stretched out over the course of 1,000 generations. And we're only up to about the 200th generation now. So basically, over the duration of history. Now and in the future, maybe even never got in there. So it's good that we wouldn't want to be there, but it's good that our ancestors were able to get through it for us, and we get that zechut avat, merit of the ancestors. So, very good. Okay, so anyway, this was just a little introduction. Hopefully we'll get on some specific topics in Volume 1, the Moshe MS Recent Complex Creation Framework for Understanding Science in Maximum Available Contexts. So we go over things like radiometric dating, dendrochronology, tree ring dating, plate tectonics, mountain uplift. In Volume 2, distant starlight and Torah, distant starlight and the age, formation, and structure of the universe. We explain how all the cosmological observations probably only align within Torah testimony, narrative, and chronology. And they certainly align with, but they actually, not only do they align with Torah testimony, but they corroborate and attest to Torah chronology. And in Volume 3, we solve untie some knots, when was the bris ben Abisarim, the covenant between the pots? How old was Abraham? And we show even Rashi, something happened to Abraham was 70 in order for the Exodus to be after 430 years, but it wasn't the bris ben Abisarim, we find it was the catalyst, and we tell what that catalyst was when Abraham was 70. Abraham does not come down to the land of Israel till age 75. It's one of those things that, first of all, he had to leave his father, and he wouldn't want to do that without being commanded, possibly. And then two, that may have had to do with it. And two, greater is the person who command that does than the one not commanded but does it because they want to or feel like it. So that, I get double point score, double, credit for, it's like being listening to your parent. If they ask you to do something, even if there's no reason, you get the benefit. If there is a benefit from doing it, great. But even if there's no benefit to it, if you do it just because they told you, you get benefit for listening to your parents, honoring your parents. So went down also that similar with bris milah, circumcision. He may have been able to figure that out. He kept a lot of the mitzvah through logical deduction or inspiration, but bris milah is something you don't want to do more. Circumcision is something you don't want to do more than once. So he waited till commanded to do that. Okay. Very good. So that's one of the we figure out a lot of things that people who use inflated chronology just can't do. If they can't do it in an internally consistent way. They can get it right here, but then they'll be off there, or they could get it right there, but then they'll be off here. But the only way really to get it right everywhere is not to use the inflated chronology. So it has to have the relative dating. So the other big riddle we solve is, by the way, we do find Avram just turning 85, and it is actually a Midrash Rabbah. So explain how that works and why Rashi does not hold by what he quotes in Seder Adorat about age 70, but that was a catalyst. Okay, with the 52-year Persian span, we also untie that knot. Persian chronology consensus is inflated by 148 years, and then 16 years during Ptolemy II. So 148 plus 16, the Hellenized consensus is inflated by 164 years. So ironically, they accuse, Chazal of subtracting 164 years, give or take. But in reality, we don't subtract, it's just that they add 164 years of fudge. There are three main repetitions and a lot of unaccounted for overlap, just like in the Egyptology. So from Cyrus' declaration in 3390, 52 years, from 3338 to 3390, Cyrus year 1, he's already been very active, and it's already year 4 of his grandson, time of Yemei Achashverosh. But it's Cyrus year 1 is King of Kings of Babel. And, his uncle, senior uncle Darius the Mede, had year 1 of 1 the year before, when Babel fell to Cyrus, the city of Babylonia, when Daniel handwriting on the wall fame, when Belshazzar died within the day of that handwriting on the wall, when Cyrus diverted the river and went through. We explain how Cyropaedia is, very accurate. They can't figure it out using the inflated chronology. So you really can't understand the life of Cyrus and Cyropaedia by Xenophon without understanding Perlman, Torah, Chazal-based Second Temple era chronology. Okay, very good. See Perlman versus Ptolemy canon. Yes, if you're interested in Cyrus and Persian history, if you're interested in Alexander the Great, there are a lot of things, some things people won't know, like who is Myrtle, not his birth mother. His Myrtle comes from his adoptive mother, Esther Hadassah. That the name Myrtle came from, and Sisigambis in the history books is Esther. Still pretty young at that age, but she is a grandmother at that point, and she becomes his mother-in-law. And then twice over, first I think Alexander may have married her daughter and then her granddaughter. So that was as she was taking in by Isis, when her son Achashverosh and Esther and Darius Artaxerxes from Ezra. So we reconcile the 52-year Persian span of Chazal, fits perfectly, and also 420 years for Holy Temple II in Shemitah sanctity. So it's 3410 start of Shemitah sanctity to 3830. So, but Holy Temple II is actually 3396 is Darius the Persian year 2. When we resumed construction, it was only a 4-year pause during Cambyses II, when his father, actually that pause began when Cyrus was still alive away at war. So if you say Cyrus did the pause, fine, because he allowed Cambyses II to, but I don't think it's really Cyrus's fault. He was probably away, and Cambyses II is heading down to Egypt, and not a very good person. So anyway, Mordechai helped stopped Fort Smyrdes, saved Persia, saved Ahasuerus's life with Big Son of Zeresh. That's all part of the Fort Smyrdes conspiracy. So again, you're not going to understand Persian history or the Behistun inscription without studying Purim and Torah, Bible chronology and Tanganat, or Torah discovery chronology, Purim and chronology. Okay, very good. So we untie that knot. We untied with the Brisbane of Asarim, a lot of other things. Shishak is Ramses II, David Rural, Lords of Avarice, on the Elamana letter span. So he's one of our mentors that helped us pin it down. We independently corroborate that Ramses II is Shishak with the 400-year stele of Ramses, 400 anniversary stele, and that has to do with the Hyksos, 108-year Hyksos occupation of Egypt, which began by Ehud and ends mid-Devar and Barak. So that 400 years includes the Hyksos occupation and ends up mid-Solomon. So yeah, Ramses, King Solomon's a famous son-in-law of Ramses II. Married Patastel 5 years after Solomon, 24 to 29 to 64 as King Solomon. His temple, his year 480 years from the Exodus, 2448 plus 480, 2928. Say 5 years after King Solomon is Shishak comes up. That's when the Merenpata, his son Merenpata, Israel's no more. What's no more about Israel? Yeah, sure, we've been there over 500 years by that, close to over 500 years from the Exodus. Israel no more. The United Kingdom of Israel is no more. Okay, so we solved those two mysteries, and the Baruch Hashem, thank God, that's a tell that we were also able to figure out the cosmology, because there are lots of brilliant people like Rav Schwab and others had tried to reconcile the Persian span, and many people try to figure out the 404, 130 year, what's going on there, why 400 years with Abraham at the covenant between the pots, and then 430 years. Yeah, Rashi's right. Yeah, the 400 years is from the birth of Yitzhak. What's the 430 years? So even in the Septuagint, the Torah sages, they didn't want to put a stumbling block before the blind. So that was one of the many known changes to the at the Septuagint for Ptolemy too. You check out letters to Aristius that we help identify him as Antigonus Soho, who was a transition between Shimon HaTzadik and the Zugas, the 5 steps of Zugat that spanned from the Greek domination until the Hillel and Shammai were the 5th set. Again, look at Mirrors of Eternity, Talmudic Disputes, Hillel and Shammai, and also on Esther's Plea. Historical Haggadah has some great stuff, but yeah. Okay, so so we figured out I tied some knots to Torah chronology, also with cosmology. There's see, like Einstein's doubt, biggest blunder and regret, and Perlman versus Hubble on volume 2 on cosmology. The James Webb Telescope that actually confirms some of our predictions. Some of our predictions you would predict using Perlman. Why you see are self-evident, and we have other predictions that you actually need good experimentalists to actually go and test it. with some sensitive equipment, and on what on the and to, but even already it's so such vastly stronger, higher probability explanation of the empirical observations, which the highest probability explanation of the empirical observations is the strongest science we define. That's the way we define it, and any good scientist would. And that it's not really a matter of if, but it already should replace the standard cosmological model. The only thing is, people, influencers, some studying it and disseminating it. Once they do that, there's no reason why Perlman YEC is not already the leading the standard cosmological model. And the only reason it isn't is because the relevant scientists don't know that they don't know. If they do know they don't know, and are honest enough to admit it, which some have, they're willfully ignorant. So they're unnoticed. They at this point, it's been around 10 years, held up to stood somewhat the test of time because it has had quite a bit of scrutiny, people trying to falsify it. And so you do science, you have two competing hypotheses, try to falsify one, try to falsify the other. You might be able to falsify them both. But here, if anything, it's a standard cosmological model that we falsified. Nobody so far has, and we've had some good arguments, and we've had came close to not figuring out how to answer the challenges. But I think I was held up for 10 years, panning out, passing with flying colors. And people are interested in science. Basic physics and math. That's all you need. You don't need to make up you don't need to tweak the laws of nature or physics, based on light speed limit, a standard light speed. And that actually, ironically, that helps attest to Torah narrative 5,784 and falsify pretty much anything over hundreds of millions. So, it actually falsifies anything over about 15,000, but not a high enough probability. But 5.67 quintillion to 1 at 13.8 billion, and the current consensus of competing hypothesis, standard cosmological model, namely the dark matter. Okay, so stop following those links I posted, especially on ResearchGate. You can follow there, you can recommend there, you can share that and help disseminate. It's not rocket. Well, it is a kind of rocket. It was very simple. It's not. You don't need to be a genius at math. We get close enough. And if anybody wants to write a little bit, fancier equation to get a little bit more precise, but there are a couple of variables. The starting size, of the when the hypercosmic inflation expansion began, and did it last for 24 hours or for 12 hours, or for, probably it lasted at least 6 hours, and probably for the maximum, less than 70, or actually 4 times 24 would be the absolute max, but I don't think it lasted that long, but could have. But probably 24 hours, we just round, and starting at 1 light year just to make the math easy. And we find a radius of the entire universe. We find the entire universe approximates the visible universe with a radius of a little bit under 1 billion light years, based on, we give the exact, thing based on the cosmic CMB, cosmic microwave background radiation. Based on that temperature, which we're accepting, the temperature, that consensus temperature. So based on that temperature, and then the proportional to the size of the universe assumptions in each of these, so we figured we're able to determine the pretty precise to the light year size of the entire universe based on, assuming they at least have the proportional temperature to size of the universe. Okay. Entire universe, which we find approximates the visible universe. And so that we are by the approximate, the Earth, Sun elliptic, the approximate center of, also we have a vastly preferred view. So that's pretty interesting too. So not only are we by the center, and Copernicus was right. So that Copernican principle, that's basically flat Earth club on steroids. And then it's identity theft because Copernicus did not hold by a flat on the surface universe. He actually held the sun was the approximate center of the entire universe, and probably like it's approximate sphere, I assume he assumed. So we show how we have 4 exhibits here: entire visible universe, which approximates the entire visible universe, approximates the entire universe. We can see pretty much the whole thing. That's redshifted. The overall, we all both competing hypotheses agree. Prevalent cosmological redshift of standard of distant starlight and increase of cosmological redshift of distance. So we can see pretty much the entire universe. This prominent spiral radii, the distance to the nearest departure point of any starlight that's ever been subjected to any cosmological redshift. So probably about 15,000 light years maximum, because there's some galaxies moving away from us that starting at around 15,000 light years. We also explain why some have blue shifted. We have cosmic blue shift offset, which that hypothesis helps solve the crisis in cosmology. Cosmic blue shift offset, not just the universe as a whole went through a cosmic expansion, hypercosmic expansion epoch, but the individual galaxies also began hyperdense. Also check out Perlman, YEC spiral, black hole illusion resolution. So on black holes, they represent past, not ongoing cosmic hyperdensity. They represent past, not ongoing hyperdensity. They themselves, I think we explained like the leavening raisin dough classic analogy, except in spiral we find the raisins themselves which represent the galaxies, were also expanding. So the near side was moving back toward us. That can explain some nearby blue shifted galaxies, not too far away, where the redshift, the movement away would overwhelm the movement back toward. And then the far side of the galaxies, their redshift is enhanced, because not only is the galaxy expanding, but the rays in the galaxy itself is expanding. So the near side back toward us, and the far side enhanced movement away from us. So that's going to throw off the rate that one assumes of the expansion if they don't take that into account. And that probably is what's going on the crisis in cosmology, why they get different readings from different findings on that, and could have to do that cosmic blue shift offset. Okay. All right. So try to check back in next Sunday. We're going to try to do a weekly and post some questions and give a question and answer after. Okay.